thank you for joining us today. We're here with three very dynamic and special businesses, each celebrating huge milestones across manufacturing, engineering and construction. Very excited to hear what they have to say as they celebrate 10, 20 and 30 years of running businesses across each of their industries. Hello everybody, thank you for joining us. We'll just do a short introduction from each of you before we start to hear the stories. Jackie, can we start with you?
Yes, absolutely. My name's Jackie Cook. I'm the founder of CQ Strategic Marketing. I've been in business 10 years. We're based in Sheffield and I set out to specialise in owner-managed SMEs who work in the manufacturing sector. And we cover everything from marketing strategy, marketing planning, putting together your comms plan, putting together a budget and then looking at how we actually control that and actually helping with the practical support of actually carrying out the tasks.
Very good, thank you very much. And Paul, 20 years in business?
Yes, my name is Paul Stockhill. I'm the owner and managing director of Agemaspark. We're a precision engineering company based in Doncaster. We work with a lot of different manufacturing groups, like aerospace, military and civil aviation, power generation, oil and gas, right through to plastic injection mold tooling, robotics, and even down to making dice for Rice Krispies. So the whole gambit is part of our business. So yes, it's a very interesting place to be.
Very, we'll hear more about it shortly. And Lisa, 30 years for Airmaster in business.
Absolutely, so really proud. So I'm Lisa Pogson, Managing Director at Airmaster. We have got a mechanical services design and build division that works all over the country doing energy efficient heating and cooling, ventilation, public health and water services. And we've also got a maintenance division and remedials and small works as well that work all over the country too. We work across all different sectors, so we're in education, we're in leisure, we're also in a lot of office buildings and laboratory work as well. So whole different areas across the region really and across the country. We've been around for 30 years, like I said, my brother-in-law started the business and we just became an employee on trust.
Very good, yeah, and hence the reason why we're here today. So of course, Jackie, CQ Strategic Marketing, is celebrating 10 years in the sector. Paul, 20 years, and then also Lisa, 30 years. So again, huge congratulations. And how bizarre for all three of you to be celebrating and working together in the same industries really is quite special. So I guess first of all we need to understand how you all individually got introduced into your respective sectors. Lisa, with the most experience, we'll start with you. So what attracted you to the kind of sector and the industry and how did you get started?
Well, I don't know if I've got most experience, but I was certainly been as a business in 30 years. So my brother-in-law, Richard, set it up 30 years ago as a man in a van, just decided that he was going to start his own business. And I think he was 30 at the time. And I'd just got to know him and I helped him along with some of the background work because I'd worked in building contracting, architecture, structural engineering all around the sector really. So I was helping him with the bookkeeping and things like that. And I've always been fascinated by buildings since I was little. So property for me was key and he sort of kept asking me to go and work for him and I wouldn't. And then 25 years ago I was part-time and then eventually full-time, done all sorts of jobs in the business, but now managing director because he's sold out to an employee ownership trust with his business partner. And I'm left as MD with an ops director, which is great, fantastic team.
Yeah, and we'll certainly speak to you more about that as we look at how the business grows in its future. And interesting as well, your journey, seeing the original starting of the business and then how when you've joined and how that will change as well. That'll be interesting to hear.
Absolutely.
Paul, how did you get into precision engineering?
Precision engineering, it started at school really. I guess I was interested in metalwork and woodwork, and in them days we were allowed to the health and safety wasn't quite so important as it is today. And we're allowed to cut our hands and get stuck into machines and things like that. But I started my apprenticeship at Crompton Parkinson's as a apprentice toolmaker, and worked my way through to being number 2 in the tool room by the age of 23.
Wow.
But I then left Crompton Parkinson's and became a self-employed toolmaker,
Right.
basically changing my salary from probably 8,000 to 20 plus overnight, which was great for me. And the company I worked for 3 years eventually talked me into becoming general manager of the business.
Right.
So I've spent all my 50 plus years in engineering in various companies with big multinationals. But 20 years ago, I was working with a machine tool manufacturer, and I took it on myself to do some subcontract work within the company, and out of that, Agemaspark was born. We spent £43 on the company's house to buy the name, and it's been a major contributor to the business. For people that can't spell it or pronounce it or want to know where it comes from.
It's a tricky one.
But then I, over the last 20 years, I've been based in Doncaster, and we now work with the likes of, we have things in the International Space Station, we have parts that are on Mars. We do a lot of work with the civil and the military aircraft engine work and power generation work with the likes of Siemens and Rolls-Royce. We do exclusively manufacture a lot of R&D work for directional drilling for one of the biggest companies for oil and gas equipment suppliers. And we even export to China, so we're quite so a lot of work within the plastic injection mold tooling business and specialist machining, right down to kind of making dice for Rice Krispies. So we currently have a mantra that so we can go from the centre of the earth to the universe as most as what we can do. So that's basically where we are at the moment.
Oh, very good. Glad to hear it. And Jackie, how did you get involved in your sector? Of course, 10 years at CQ Strategic Marketing, but you have a huge background in industry, don't you?
Yeah, so thinking back, even my first jobs were as a secretary, were working for manufacturing businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always worked in B2B manufacturing type sectors. I moved from being a secretary to working in marketing while I was at a large professional services firm. Got retrained there and did all my qualifications.
Right.
But after 9 years there, I was ready for a change. I was ready for a different industry. Went to work for a large heavy engineering company based in Sheffield, and fell in love with engineering, and have stayed in engineering ever since. So I set up my own business about 10 years ago. I wasn't in the right company at that time. It wasn't right for me, and I could see it was a large multinational, and I could see lots of a need within lots of SME engineering businesses that haven't got their own in-house marketing, like both of these here, that would need marketing support. And so that's what I set out to do.
Yeah.
So across South and West Yorkshire, we work with companies and become their in-house marketing team.
Very good.
And I love the diversity of what we do. Every day's different.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess for all of you, the passion obviously shines through, but then I guess you've all got that exploration, that mindset where you want to think about how things work, how you can improve, and you've obviously seen a lot across each of the industries. What's kept you in the industries? What's kept you wanting to, start the business, take over as a decision maker, set up on your own? What is it that's kept you involved in each of the manufacturing, engineering and construction sectors?
Well, certainly for me, like I said, from being young, I'm passionate about property. I've always been interested in buildings. My dad was a lift engineer, an electrician, hydraulics engineer, and most of my family are either bricklayers, plumbers, whatever.
Yeah.
I married a plumber obviously his brother was an aircon engineer, and that's how I ended up at Airmaster. I think, you know, there's all sorts about recession and things like that, but things are a cycle, and we have to look at opportunities wherever they are. And I think our sectors, particularly because they are the sort of R&D type sectors, everybody's pushing all the time to look at the new stuff.
Yeah.
They're looking at new ways of working. And in COVID, people were saying to us constantly, you know, the work that you're doing won't be there in a few months. The work you're doing, you know, so you look for something else, and you look at ways to move forward, and that's what we did. So COVID for us was trying, but it was that constant look forward.
I guess in that sense as well, talking about looking for opportunity, not only looking at the opportunity within your own sector, but what your clients want as solutions, which we'd mentioned about the decentralisation of ventilation systems.
Absolutely.
Do you want to share about that?
Absolutely. So for us, obviously COVID, everybody got really worried about ventilation, and you know, a lot of the time it's not about being worried, it's about how you're going to deal with it. So we did do a lot of work on ventilation. There's bipolar ionisation, where you can put little tiny boxes on the back of a fan coil unit, like the ones that are in the ceiling here, and it can emit a ray, so it eliminates COVID or whatever's in that room, or it will try its best. So there's lots of things like that, and there's lots of work built up around that just since COVID, to be honest. And then for us as well, a lot of what we do is comfort cooling, so in office spaces, education sector, but we also during COVID did laboratory work, which we have done lots in the past, but it again went off the radar a little bit. During COVID, obviously everything stepped up, so we were working in laboratories, and that is a great, you know, again, it's that R&D, you're really interested in how you're going to get the fume cupboards working properly out, and I have to say our team was cracking about that, so yeah, I think for me that was key. Innovation
and investing in it.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? And Paul, that's similar in your line of work. We've heard many stories about the of course part of your components being on Mars, but again it's that real solution driven kind of mindset, isn't it?
Yes, I think from my point of view, the technology in my industry has gone from people working with hands and patterns and other things like that, to the computers, which made a huge leap in the way we could manufacture things. Alongside that, all the tooling and everything else is just constantly being updated. And technology has allowed us to move along and be very productive in everything. But also my industry, especially my business, it looks at a lot of different one-off solutions and problem solving of different from different sectors. One of which we introduced recently, 3D metal printing. I've been involved with this for the last 15 plus years, working with Rolls-Royce and TWI, the Welding Institute, way back around 2003 or 4. Where we're developing additive manufacturing as powder bed materials and lasers, and that's come on so far in the last several years. It's now everyone now knows about 3D printing, predominantly mainly in plastics, and there's a big business in that. But the metal side of it has been one that's been sort of left. Well, it's there, but it's not recognised in industry. And recently we've introduced new technologies, conformal cooling within moulds and other things, where the reduction in the cycle times and the quality improvements are such that we can take 20% out of a cycle time. And when you go into single-use plastics and things like that, where there's millions and millions made every day, this is a huge saving, and it fetches along that ecological level where we can now say, it can be fetched into a different technique and an approach to the way we produce things. It's not a panacea. It's going to stop plastics being a problem, but it's a step towards reduction and everything else, so which is important to work to. So technology has been my driver in industry. a lot more to be had yet, and I want to see.
And of course, every manufacturer is striving towards increased efficiency and performance, so the solution goes. And we can't let the conversation pass by without mentioning its award-winning innovation, Paul, from Agemaspark, the conformal cooling. So again, another kind of feather in your cap as to how that explorative nature and finding solutions for businesses is contributing towards sustainability.
I think the parts that we've been putting into play are in production sets now, and it's actually proving what it says on the can is actually working. So it now needs from a lot of people to kind of look at it as a part of solution to all the issues we have locally.
Very good.
And nationally, really.
Yeah, excellent. And Jackie, you've obviously spoken about your history in the sector and love of engineering, but I guess for you, working with several different clients, you get the real diversity of all across these industries, don't you? Tell us about that.
So we work with a very diverse mix of clients, and even within my current client base. And I love finding out what they do and finding out how things are made and getting to go around the factories and seeing it in operation. So, I've got an international client. I've got a client whose official address is in the Netherlands. One of the chaps lives in Belgium, one of them lives in Germany. So I guess technology has moved on so much, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And so enables that to happen, that I'm here in the UK working with businesses that are based in Europe. We have Zoom calls once a month, and that enables us to keep in touch. A lot of what I do is very technology driven these days. So obviously when I started in marketing, we were sat there stuffing great big piles of paper into envelopes, sending 700 invites out manually, sending out fax back forms to get people to book on seminars, whereas everything now is done by email.
Has that been a challenge? Is that something that, you sound like you've taken it on well?
It's actually been really good, because particularly from clients want to know their marketing's working, and they want to know which bits are working. So with things like social media, with things like Google Analytics, things like email marketing, you can show them results. You can show that the traffic's increased on the website. You can show that your open rates have increased on emails. You can see who's opened them, which email addresses have opened them, which links have they clicked on, so which bits are they interested in. Whereas previously you sent out your mailer and you'd no idea whether they'd actually read it, whether they'd clicked and had a look at your website, if you even had a website, or whether they'd just chucked it in the bin without even opening it. So there's a lot more, we can see what's working a lot more now. But the diversity definitely as well. So we've got an air conditioning business, a mould tool maker, I'm working with a recruitment consultant who specialises in engineering and manufacturing, who's also looking at more the HR support for businesses as well. We've got another company coming on board this month that's going to be looking at sort of helping put in apprentice training schemes and those learning and development type services within businesses that again might not have a HR function in-house. It really is a very big mix. And then we work for some trade associations, so such as the International Trade Forum and the Manufacturing Forum across South Yorkshire. So it really does help us get involved with a lot of different businesses within the sector. It helps us promote the sector as a whole, as well as the individual businesses, because there is a massive skills shortage in the industry. Everybody's trying to recruit people. There's a whole generation at my sort of age who there weren't apprenticeships when I left school. And everybody was pushed down the university route, and so a lot of my clients are having these issues of trying to promote the business to attract the young people into engineering and manufacturing.
Yeah.
And so that's something else we get involved in now is a lot of the businesses, that's more the priority rather than marketing for sales.
Okay, so that's quite interesting. So not only are you all individually growing your own businesses, you're also having to look at the promotion of the sector. So you've obviously spoken a lot there about skills. Lisa, you'd mentioned about COVID as a bit of a challenge. You know, how do you do that? You know, grow the business, face these challenges and continue to promote the sector?
Well, for me, networking's been key. The networks around us. So we've got nearly 40 staff, so they've all got their own networks, whether it's within customers and the links of the supply chains, the subcontractors that we work with. For me, that's been keeping ahead of the game with things like the chamber network, which has been brilliant for us. The local council during the COVID, they did the COVID reports every day. We could get on the calls. So for us that was fantastic, and for me that's been key, keeping ahead of all the decisions that you have to make on a daily basis. Sometimes tomorrow it's going to be a different decision, but you only know what you know now. So as much information as you can get and using all those different people like the Made in Yorkshire, like the Chambers, whoever, that has been really important for us.
Yeah, and I guess you've all got a mix from either a regional or a national mix. So there's Make UK, there's Connect Yorkshire, Made in Yorkshire, the Chambers as you'd mentioned, and local enterprises. Paul, any issues with disrupted supply chains, obtaining materials? What are the challenges you faced at Agemaspark?
Yeah, I think it's important that we have the communication between all sectors. The local government, Doncaster, and the local Sheffield City region have been very active in supporting businesses all the way through. We had no space between Brexit and the pandemic, so we were hit with two major things within the whole manufacturing and everything else. So supply chains have been very difficult to keep an eye on, but it's important that you sort of spread your wings out there and find out where you can go to find the right solutions. And the local chamber and other things like that have been very active in those things. It's been very difficult for lots of different reasons to maintain your business levels. Most companies, I suggest, have lost a lot of revenue in those times, and it's finding those help to solutions that we can actually go and talk to, if it's local governments or even national government bodies to allow us to fetch us back up onto where we need to be. And it's going to be a challenge for us all, I think, over the next few years, but everything looks good at the moment and is going in the right direction. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And collaborative working. I mean, again, you're all working together. You know, it's nice to see that it's been beneficial for all of you, and to have those roots, like you say, locally and then also nationally is so important. So you're all celebrating 30, 20 and 10 years in business. You're running your businesses, you're handling these challenges. Obviously, there's great stories here about how you're future-proofing your business and also feeding back. But tell us some of these stories. So we know, Lisa, about not too long ago it was publicised about the employee ownership trust. So, do you want to talk us through?
Yeah, absolutely. So 1st of July 2021 we became an employee-owned trust, which we've sort of known about them for quite a few years, and myself and my previous business partner sadly passed away, and we were looking to do an MBO within the business, and then obviously a bit challenging times, and we had COVID, and we were looking at whether we went out for sale, and that didn't work out. And for us as a business, we've always been quite a family feel business. It is a family business anyway, or it started out that way, and the view was the team around us had helped us to grow it, and why didn't we look at how we could put some incentives around that, but also for our senior founders to exit the business as well, so everybody got a win-win. And because the HMRC had put the tax-free incentives around the employee ownership trust, it became a really, really obvious solution to us, because it ticked every box. So we became that on the 1st of July last year, a year in. There's always things you do different, but generally it's been a really good experience, and we have got such a great team, and it's helped us to grow. Some people have moved on because it's not for them, and you have to know that will happen. and we get that. But it's also attracting new staff and different staff that come with a different mindset, which is great as well.
It's a different option, a different perspective, and a different type of investment, I guess, in the business. Yeah, we at Clarion see a huge kind of rise in the interest in it, especially across manufacturing and engineering. Most definitely, it's a great tool for growth, and like I say, to future-proof and look at those skills gaps that are coming down the line. Paul, you've mentioned a little bit about the apprenticeships, but future-proof in the business, looking at succession. You've also mentioned it's potentially an opportunity to learn from Lisa and go down a similar route, maybe?
Yes, I literally, in the last couple of weeks, started to look at an EOT as a solution. But yes, in 20 years, I've actually had an apprentice scheme within the business because I found that to find the skills, there's a massive skills gap in the middle, engineering particularly. My demographics within the business are such that 12 of the 16 people are under 33, the next one is 60 years old. There's nothing in the middle. So those things have become more of a problem. And the guys at the back end are like me, they get into an age where they're going to look to retire. But so apprenticeships has been good. It takes a little more time to get to the thing, but I think the technology, the requirements today are such that the young minds are going to exploit this much more than the older generation like myself. We have the experiences to be able to pass on to them, but they're gaining new experiences because of what this technology is allowing us to do and manufacture things. So fetching apprentices in, teaching, and it's worked out very well for me because I virtually have no turnover of staff. They're all of the same age where they want houses and babies and things like that, so they all have the same interests. So it just works really well, and I have a very contented workforce, thankfully. And also because of the nature of my business, it's never the same thing every day. Something different. We can be working on an aircraft engine or something in space, or like I said before, working on food products for Rice Krispies or other things, or milk bottle tops. So there's a diversity there that actually allows them to get far more experience than they probably would in general engineering. So yes, I think the whole aspect of trying to future-proof it's been important. The last couple of years have been challenging for everyone. The sectors we work in, like aerospace and oil, they decided to drop off the cliff edge. So we had to look at different ways of doing things. The investment of £500,000 of a new 3D metal printer in the middle of a pandemic seemed a foolish thing at some point, but I think right now it's going to be the future. This technology is most definitely going to change the way we make things for the next 20, 50 years.
Absolutely. So without stating the obvious, Jackie, it's quite unusual for Paul to be outnumbered in the room, and I think that it's something which, as we've mentioned, you have had a bird's eye view of several different industries over the years in your working ways, and obviously could see a real shift. We've spoken about the skills gap, we've spoken about diversity across the sector, and it's something that you actually decided to do something about, didn't you? Do you want to tell us about equality in STEM?
So I've set up a network called Equality in STEM. We've started running some columns in Unlimited magazine, which is a business magazine that goes out across South Yorkshire to over 5,000 businesses. So we've started running some female role model profiles to try and I deliberately picked a magazine that wasn't just the engineering sector, because I think within the sector we know what opportunities there are. We all know there's a skills shortage. We all know that there's a great diversity in roles, but I think we need to get that word out to a broader audience. We need parents to understand that. We need teachers to understand the broad mix, whether it's architectural, structural engineers, whether it's mechanical, electrical. There's lots of different options in terms of career paths. So we need to promote that. And by getting this and shifting this perception that it is a male-dominated sector, but it doesn't need to be. you know, there's a campaign out there called Let Toys Be Toys, which is all about this, shifting this emphasis so that we're not girls are pink, boys are blue, girls play with dolls, boys play with Lego, Meccano or footballs. You know, it can be, it's all for all. And so we found lots of different women within the sector that where we can promote joiners, structural engineers, facilities managers, finance director at a renewables company. There is a great mix out there. We've got a mechanical design engineer went in this month. We've got a quality manager going in next month who works for a medical devices company.
Right.
So there really is such a diverse mix out there of the types of roles, and it's supporting the skills agenda, but it's also trying to get more women into the sector and more diversity generally, because again, it is predominantly not just a male dominated, but in some areas a white male dominated sector. And again, it's just trying to get more diversity, because if we're fishing in a bigger pond of skills, then you've got a greater chance of filling these skills gaps.
And it's equality, and it's across all of the STEM sectors as well, which again, it's broader, and it's removing those barriers and restrictions to that talent, which is so very, very much needed.
Because I'm also working with one of my colleagues who does a lot of our web development and app development type stuff. He also teaches at University of Bradford on their digital animation and web development technologies type courses, and he's seen the same in the technology sector as in the engineering sector, that it is male dominated, and we need to attract more women into these roles.
Very good. Well, it sounds like you're taking a huge step to get you
we're
there.
on with it.
Definitely, a work in progress. Very good. So we're very close to coming to a close, but just a final question, just to throw a curveball to you all. What does the future of the sector hold? Lisa, if we can start with you.
Well, it's interesting listening to Paul talking about Mars, because I'd love to be doing something out in space.
Space is the next opportunity.
It is. They said the final frontier. It obviously isn't, but it is whatever it is. So that's great. I think for us, 20 years ago, I did my master's degree in management, and there was a talk of sustainability then, and it was all a bit of a new sexy word, and nobody was really interested. It was all a bit fudged. Construction now, if you're not sustainable and looking at how to be sustainable or have the sustainability agenda, you may as well forget it, because everybody's pushing that forward. We're getting lots of questions around that. Even to the point of where we're fitting out an office, they'll look at where it's a well building, and that's looking at things like, can people get access to water easily? Have they got plants and things on the wall so they can breathe better? Is the ventilation working properly? So all that for us is the future. And it's any sort of building, any sort of area. Obviously saving money as well is on everybody's agenda at the minute, so it's sort of value engineering everything, but also trying to have that sustainability net zero target.
Which is where the innovation comes in, doesn't it? You
Absolutely.
know, with that innovative mindset, you can really look to build these solutions, and also feed into kind of smart type technologies, especially within the built environment. That's a huge, where everyone's pointing in the same direction, along with ESG as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. Paul, any thoughts on the future of the sector of
Yes,
engineering?
no, I think we are at a stage now when where people are looking at all sorts of ways of creating a sustainable future for all our young people. And you have to look at it in the broad as well, I think. It's not just solar and sun and nuclear and all those sort of things. It's a lot of the micro things that are going to make the big differences. Just taking my bit of technology, if we can take 20% out of what a cycle time for one particular product times the millions of products that are actually produced on a daily basis, that as a sum is actually quite huge. And you've got to look at these kind of micro gains that we can put in place that will effectively help control the future, help the the planet, the whole thing. It's a mindset, I think, that needs to be applied to everybody. I understand a lot of people have a lot of investment in capital costs already. So you need to find solutions that are probably a halfway house to get them to go towards doing that. We've developed some pieces that allow that to happen, but it's important that we look at this in a much broader sense than just singularities things that might. I know it's great if you think that you've got a big wind farm that can do so many houses, and that's great and absolutely brilliant. But it's the other little things that I really want to be looked at as a general improvement as well, and the productivity and all those things that we're all looking for will come because it has nowhere else to go but that way because of the way you approach it.
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We at Clarion spend a long time talking to businesses about those small incremental changes, but also infiltrating ESG into growth plans. So those small changes that may not have a huge impact now, but in the future as the businesses grow, which all feeds into what you're all individually talking about. And Jackie, finally, what does the future look like for the promotion and the brand awareness for the sector and for your clients and the whole of the industries that you work for?
I think, as I've already mentioned, technology has played a big part in the tools of what we do are changing. And I think they'll continue to change. Everything's a lot more online than it used to be. The fundamentals still apply. It's about understanding the customer. It's about understanding what they want, what are the benefits to them, answering the what's in it for me question. And it all that's changing is how we communicate that. So the technology's changed how we communicate that. But I think with all the changes of emphasis I'm seeing within most of my clients, they're all doing the same thing in terms of there's greater environmental pressures. The skills issue is a major issue with all of them. I think we're probably moving to a bit of an era where we're having to look more at marketing to all the stakeholders. I think the emphasis has been very much on marketing being part of the sales funnel and the business development funnel. I'm seeing a shift where I'm looking at the suppliers. We're marketing the supply chain from an environmental perspective particularly. There's a greater emphasis being pushed down, certainly in construction, where it's not just what you do within your business, but also your supply chain needs to be environmentally friendly and sustainable. But also the skills agenda, so you're marketing from attracting skills. So I think you're marketing more to the broader mix of stakeholders within a business rather than just the customers.
Interesting, very interesting. And of course with specialist knowledge it's easier to do, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Fabulous. Well, I think that draws us to a close. Thank you very much for joining us today, and congratulations again on your 10, 20 and 30 years in industry. It was great to catch up and hear about the future.
Thanks.
Thanks.